One. How's it going, everybody? We are Pin and Pull DFS. I'm Ricky Parker.
I'm Keaton Stone King.
And we're going to walk you through golf today. Then later down the road, some NASCAR. But we're going to focus on a novice's approach to DFS. That's me. I know next to nothing about DFS. On the other hand, Keaton
has had moderate success playing DFS at the mid-stakes over the last year, both in PGA and NFL. Had a few good scores. Looking to expand that in PGA and take it a little more seriously as we continue on the season.
Yeah, so basically our goal is, for me, I love sports, love golf, NASCAR especially, since that's what we're going to be focusing on. I love those. I know nothing about DFS, but Keaton's going to fill in all the DFS points crap that I don't understand, and he's going to show me how to be good, how to transfer my knowledge into that. So what we want to do is we want to kind of be a threefold option for you as a streaming service. So basically, we want to a novice guide. So if you are first starting DFS, jump in, exactly the same position I am. Give you tips, give you ideas of what to look for. I'm going to give my insights. I do research beforehand, but again, I don't know what I'm looking for. So I'll probably give some random stuff.
We'll cover contest selection, bankroll management, kind of general game theory, some things that can set you apart from the average person picking up their phone and just throwing 6 golfers in a lineup.
Exactly. And so from there, we also want to add a little bit of, entertainment, because all this stuff's supposed to be fun. And then third, we
have a segment we would like to review our favorite local North Carolina beers. Today we are drinking New Sarum Salisbury Brewing Old Stonehouse IPA.
I've never had this.
It's pretty good.
As long as I don't hate it, I will not spit it out. But beyond that, we want to add some, entertainment value, and then also just some actual value on the DFS side. So, even if you are someone who has been, actively on DFS for extended period of time, we want to maybe some points, add some, different perspective, different things to look at from there, but also, some actual legitimate DFS type statistics that, a normal, subscription service or that side of thing would be able to do. But we want to be able to, kind of put everything down into that and go from there. But today, basically, it's our first episode, number 1. So it can only go up from here.
So thanks for watching, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a very basic course overview. We're going to walk through the course and go
This
from there.
week's tournament is the World Golf Championship, the Workday Championship at Concession Golf Club in Bradenton, Florida. Brand new course. PGA hasn't been there yet, and so it'll be interesting to see what the players think of it.
Yeah, the interesting tidbit of information that I learned was that it is named after the concession in 1969 at the Ryder Cup.
All right, I didn't know that.
I also did not, because I was not alive then. And but apparently Jack and the other guy that co-designed the course,
Terry something, can't remember his name. Terry something.
Tony Jackson.
Tony, maybe.
But apparently Jack conceded the last hole to him, and they tied the Ryder Cup.
All right.
Which I would never do on a golf course, but I'm also not Jack Nicklaus. So that's kind of where we're coming from. The concession, like Keaton said, first time here. I think it opened in 2006.
Right.
So it's pretty new course. It doesn't seem to be a ton of like pros have played there and that type of thing. I know in 2015 they hosted the NCAA National Championships, which a few players did play in. DeChambeau won.
Which a lot of people make a big deal about. I think will probably be overblown this week. The fact that Bryson won. Bryson was a completely different golfer in 2015. Everyone's seen him bulk up over the last 5 years.
Now he hits it further.
Yeah, and Bryson's big off the green. I still like Bryson this week, but not for the reason that a lot of people are liking Bryson this week.
And so beyond that, I think Rahm, Schauffele, and maybe Scotty Scheffler?
I think that sounds right.
I think those other 3 also played it in 2016. So those are, I don't know if that's...
As far as course history goes, those are at least the guys that have a little bit of course history.
I'm sure a lot of these people played the course test.
But I think this course probably plays similar to a lot of Florida courses. You have a lot of water, a fairly open fairways. I think most of them are in the 40 to 50 yard width, but a ton of water, a ton of bunkers. Yeah. I think it's a pretty traditional, maybe like a Doral type course.
Yeah, and just going a little bit more on that, there was a Golf Digest article that Paul Azinger was talking about the course. Apparently he is a member there or plays there a lot. Maybe just knows somebody who knows. But he said that basically the biggest deal was the driver carry. So I'm going to, again, as a novice, talk probably 90% about driver carry. For whenever we start talking about it. I even made a spreadsheet and it only ranks driver carry. So I'm going to make a big deal out of that. But he was very specific on how anyone that could carry it more than 300 yards, the course set up a lot better for them, a lot easier. And that if you were under 300, close to like 290, that you were going to have some struggles. And so
we only have a handful of guys that carry 300, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was last year, or so far this year, there's like 7 or 8 people who carry over 300, maybe a couple more, but definitely in the field, even though this is the best of the best field, it's still not it's not going to be full of people who can just bomb it out of trouble. And so apparently this course gets pretty tough if you get shorter or if you get kind of
outside the fairways.
Outside where you want it.
And to Ricky's point, this is the best of the best field. So in the World Golf Championships, we have the top 50 PGA Tour players. We have the top 30 FedEx Cup points leaders from last year. We also have top 20 from the European Tour. I believe the top 20 from another overseas tour, probably the Asian Tour. And so we do have the best of the best in the world. And we also have a lot of golfers we haven't necessarily seen play in the States, either recently or at all this year. And so that should be interesting. I think players building lineups may be hesitant to click on some of the players they haven't seen play in some of our PGA Tour events this year. So there's some opportunity to get maybe some good golfers at a lower ownership.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think, I'm looking through them, I think some of them were more expensive and some of them were on the cheaper side. So, maybe if you, are able to dig in a little more. I know Keaton had mentioned a couple that he'd been looking into that we'll talk about later. But, when you're looking at, especially if you're looking at just PGA statistics, those people aren't going to show up, as I will talk about again with carrying distance. They did not show up, so they are not on my sleeper picks of the week. So that's definitely something to keep track of. This course is exponentially hard for the average player. How is your golf game nowadays?
Well, less than average. We'll call it less than average.
Yeah, so I believe the slope was 155, which apparently means that if you are a 20 handicap golfer, it's the difference. Then you multiply it a little bit. But apparently, if you're a 20 handicap golfer, you'd be shooting 106 here. And as a fairly slightly less than 20 handicap golfer, I know that if I'm sweating out 100 on a day, it's not going to be too much fun. So, everyone sit down, take a sip of New Serum?
Yeah, sounds right. New Serum.
Old Stonehouse IPA. And we're gonna walk through the courses. I think what we're gonna start with, we decided we're gonna walk through the par 5s. Right?
Yeah, the par 5 in DFS, for those that don't play a lot of fantasy golf, par 5s tend to be your biggest scoring holes. There's an emphasis placed on eagle scoring as well on birdie scoring. And we're going to see some of our best scores on the par 5s. I think this course offers 5 par 5s. 4, I think, are beatable. Or is it 4 par 5s?
4 par 5s.
4 par 5s, 3 of which I think are beatable. I think there's 1 tough par 5, but overall we're going to see our best scores, and the bulk of our DFS scoring is going to come from these holes.
Yeah. So this is pretty cool. On Golf Week had the actual yardage books. So we'll see. It might be a little bit hard to see on the screen, but we'll kind of walk through a little bit more. So as you can see, this is number 3, par 5, 577. Looks like water to start with, but it's not going to be. I mean, it would be super problematic for me.
It'd be horrible for me.
But it looks like it stops at about 250. So it looks like,
and even towards the middle, more about 240.
There's not going to be any water issues. But as you walk up, If you're able to hit it more on the three, this type of area, you're going to be close to 275 in right here. So, I mean, this is going to be a not necessarily, easy makeable par 5 and 2, but it's definitely going to be there. And this is going to be a thing that you see on all of these par 5s. They're not necessarily a bunch of water and stuff in front of them, but they're contoured out the wazoo.
And they're almost all guarded in some fashion by bunkers.
Exactly. So, I know one person that I saw or read described it as kind of a mini Augusta. So one thing that I, again, focused on top of carrying distance was I looked at distance to the hole, which may not be the best indicator, but I want somebody to have as short a putt as possible to be able to go from there and not have to, putt across 4 different tiers and different slopes and that type of thing.
There's a ton of movement on these greens. Yeah, that's a great point.
And so that's par 5. There's not a ton of issues, but there's a lot of distance that you can always make some problems from there. And what did I say? It was 577. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not short, but it's not super long. And then going into number 7 is the second par 5. This is 606. So we're getting into Ricky can't reach this in 3 territory. It's getting a little bit harder to hit the fairway. You got a lot of problems right here with this long bunker. I would be terrified of it personally, but I mean, outside of 300, again, if you're able to carry it 300, look there. You aren't having bunker issues. You're going to be
nice and clean.
Not even that many trees at this point. So again, driving distance, driving carry distance. Got to get it out there. Get it over these bunkers, you're going to have a lot better day. Looks like approach shots are, very similar in the same way. This green looks ridiculously hard to get into, but you're not going to have out of bounds issues. So you're going to want people who can hit greens, especially, or, are able to chip well. Because, when you're coming from 270 in, there's a good shot you're going to miss a tiny little green like this. So, being able to chip up and go from there, I would say is very important. Do you have anything to add there?
No, that's great. That's a great cover.
It kind of seems like, and maybe we'll see once they actually start playing. At least for the first 2 par 5s, the water doesn't really come into play that much. So it may not be necessarily something where people are dunking into water all day. It's just they put themselves in bad positions and make bad numbers because they miss the green to the wrong side, or they put it in one of these bunkers, or that type of thing, as opposed to just a straight, like, they may double because they put it in the water. And then moving on to, let's see, what is this? This is hole number 13. So a little bit shorter, but a lot more water.
Yep.
So I was talking about water, about how it wasn't going to be an issue at all. That's a lot. But again, look at there.
You can stay to the right, though.
You can stay to the right, and then 311, if you can carry it. I mean, you're, again, like, this is where somebody like DeChambeau is not gonna have a problem on any of these tee shots. Yeah, he may miss the fairway left or right, but he's never gonna hit the water here because he's going to carry them.
And he loves to go for it. He loves to make holes shorter, so he'll be the one angling up the shot to carry 300.
Exactly.
And in DFS, that's sort of what we're looking for, right? I mean, we want a guy that has that super high upside. I mean, there can be lineups that you play Bryson that you're going to flame out. That's, he shoots a +4 on Friday night. That's fine. But, I mean, I think if there's anyone that's going to win this tournament by 3 or 4 or 5 strokes, it's probably Bryson.
Yeah. And one thing that, again, I don't, know as much about, like, the cut side and that type of thing. But Keaton, you want to talk a little bit about how this one doesn't have a cut. So how does that affect the scoring? How does that affect you? Do you kind of just go for more of the more named guys, or do you? No,
I think it gives you an opportunity to take a shot on some lower price, maybe more flyer guys because you don't have the cut. One aspect, I guess, that just backing up from the enjoyment side of DFS, it takes away what I think is probably the best sweat going in DFS, and that's your Friday night cut sweat. I mean, getting 6 of 6 through, I mean, Ricky, as you'll see as you start putting some lineups through, but once you play a cut event, getting 6 of 6 golfers through the cut sets you up for a really nice Saturday and Sunday. And so that Friday night, whatever you have, Matt Wolf has got to make a 10-foot birdie to make cut, and he's one off the number, and he's got to make that birdie on 18, and he leaves it a foot short, and it's at least fun sweat on a Friday night to cheer out your guys that are close to the cut number. Or the other way, you've got someone that's 2 shots in of the cut, they're -2 and cuts it even, and then they go double bogey, and they're sitting outside the cut line. But a Friday night sweat is tons of fun. So in a non-cut event, I am more willing to take a shot on some of the, not necessarily lower price because there's always value guys, but some of the guys that are more boom bust, a little more high upside. It's also a week I tend to scale back my play a little bit. I don't play as many tournaments. I think your edge is smaller in these events.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
I think getting, normally I try to play about the same, and going forward, I think bankroll management is something on this show that I think I want to hold myself accountable because I am not the best at bankroll management. After I have a big week, I tend to YOLO the next week and play probably a little bit higher than I should. And so one thing, accountability on this show and sticking within my bankroll is something that's important. So this week is probably a week I'll scale back my action a little bit. I probably won't take as many shots. I think your edge is a little bit smaller in weeks like this with no cut events. But going forward, some of the cut events, some of the things we will focus on is the chances that we think we can get 6 guys through in a lineup, or looking at some guys that maybe don't have the most upside, but they're consistently making cuts. Like Furyk comes to mind as someone that he'll make the cut, but Furyk's never going to win you a tournament, right? I mean, he's past his winning tournament days. But he's probably going to watch Steele go out and win next week. But that's the type of golfer I'm talking about. Someone that is consistently making cuts, like Stuart Sink even. He'll consistently make cuts, but Stuart Sink's not winning a tournament. But those are the type of golfers in cut events that you can put in a lineup because they get you that floor. Whereas in this type of event, everyone has a floor. Everyone's playing all 108 holes or all 48 holes. Or whatever.
I mean, so I was looking at how, as far as the scoring goes, there's really not as much of because I guess top 50 every week gets the same amount of scores.
And this week we only have 72 golfers.
So basically, next to everyone, unless they fully burn out, are going to get some points from that, and so you're going to get a lot less of a disparison there.
So that's why the birdie scoring and the eagle scoring is super important this week.
Yeah.
I mean, guys like Matthew Wolff, who maybe not, I know I've been using him a lot, but he's been on my mind. I've been doing some research on Matt Wolff this week. But guys that may not necessarily always provide the highest upside in terms of finish position, but he's a birdie bogey golfer, and he can come out and score.
Maybe somebody like Bubba.
Exactly, Bubba can be a birdie bogey golfer.
Especially in DraftKings here, because you only get -1 for a double.
Yeah. See, Ricky's looking into the scoring.
I've got the scoring sheet right here. This is literally all I know. I've got DraftKings.
And we're going to tell you our contest we're playing this week. So if you want to take a shot at the novice, come on. We're ready to play. We're going to probably play the big 100K birdie on DraftKings, the $3 20 max. I finished 3rd and 5th in it 2 weeks ago. I think I finished 27th last week. Been running a little hot, so don't take those results as future. Past performance doesn't predict future results. Your results may vary. Yeah, we are not financial advisors.
Exactly.
But yeah, I really like that tournament. 20 max, I feel like, is a good solid number. You have an opportunity to differentiate your lineups, but you aren't 150 maxing where your bankroll is going to wildly fluctuate every week. It's a $60 investment, which is how I convinced Ricky to do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that might be a good thing to talk about because I understand generally how you put a team together and that type of thing, but how do you strategize on what to join, which
DraftKings offers tons of contests.
Because I literally logged in earlier. You'll see we'll jump over to my thing later just to see the salaries and stuff. But I literally just hopped in, just put money in my account, and it was like a spreadsheet of options.
If you want to know if the scoring was the same in all the contests, things like that, I mean, that's totally legitimate beginner questions. And so one of the things we wanted to talk about in this show is we would like to do a Saturday night show that focuses on Showdown. But for everyone that's kind of learning, there are 2 main formats for PGA golf. Well, there's 3, but we're going to focus on 2 main formats. And that's the full week-long contest, your Thursday to Sunday, pick 6 golfers, scoring position, as well as hole scoring scores you points. And then there's the Showdown, which is single day, either first round, second round, third round, fourth round. But where I think we want to focus is doing a Saturday night show to focus on that Sunday Showdown because it's the only Showdown that scores points for where you finish. And so it's uniquely situated in the only DFS contest where going, you can build a quote unquote the optimal lineup. There are different starting points. When that contest starts, there are people that have scored points based on where your players are currently sitting. And so I think the market is currently underserved in that area, and that's one area we'd like to focus is that Saturday night show, so we can add some value to people playing Sunday Showdown.
That is what Keaton has told me, is that we can be very good for that. I will be able to talk about how terrible some people play on Saturday, and then add a little bit from there. And hopefully, as we progress, I can start, sounding like a intelligible human being on the DFS side for that type of thing. But like I said, like Keaton said, he's found something here that other people aren't necessarily doing, and he wants to be able to provide to all of y'all, teach me as we go, and we'll
have some fun. Most of all, this is really about having fun. There's nothing more fun than like 2 weekends ago. Ricky was over. We were cheering on Burger. We were cheering on Burger, cheering against Lashley, having a few drinks, and luckily Lashley faded. Burger held on, and we ended up finishing 3rd and 5th. I think we could have finished a little bit higher. I can't remember who we were trying to fade there at the end, but
I don't remember either. All I remember is, and again, this is my DFS experience, is sometimes I come over and hang out, and I'm told you have to pull for this person, and I say okay.
Last week we were pulling for Burns. We really had a shot. We were leading the $9 slice tournament going into Saturday. And even after the early Saturday round finishing up, the 3rd round finishing up Sunday morning, still in the lead going into Sunday. But as we will learn on PGA sweats, you really can't sweat until holes like 15, 16, 17, 18 on Sunday, because I ended up finishing like 23rd in that tournament.
It's all Sunday game.
Yeah, exactly. As Burns faded, so did my lineup. So
exactly. So back to the third par 5, hole number 13. Again, it looks not that scary on paper, but I imagine that bunker sucks.
Yeah, no,
like,
that's ugly. And I think this is another elevated green, so we're shooting up to this, right?
Yeah, probably so. That seems correct. It looks a lot more inviting than it actually is going to be. And again, none of this is showing the contour of the greens. None of this is showing the contour of that type of thing. So like there definitely around the green is going to be an issue all week. I don't think there's any green based on my review. I watched a really cool video review on Fried Egg YouTube channel about kind of giving an overview, and the thing that they highlighted was the contour of the greens, and probably why it's so hard for a non-professional to play there. It's and it doesn't make it easy for a professional. That's why I think.
So you didn't look at stroke gains putting this week then?
I did not look at stroke gains
putting
because I was focused on distance to the pin.
Distance to the pin, I feel like.
Which may or may not actually be a legitimate.
No, Ricky's going to ship his first DFS contest. So if you guys are going to play DFS this week, don't play the 100K birdie. Ricky's going to win. It's already decided. Yeah. That's how beginner's luck works.
That is exactly how it works.
And that's how we're going to build a YouTube channel. Is Ricky's going to ship the 10K first place in the 100K birdie this weekend.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
I have 2 factors that I chose off of, and then the names I like. And that's going to be from there. But as we move to 17, so 17
says it's the easiest hole.
It's supposed to be an easy hole, right?
Yeah, it says it's the easiest. I think it's rated as the easiest on the course.
So 18 is supposed to be hard as all get out.
The toughest on the course.
It is just a regular par 4, but it's supposed to be you're going into a headwind, and it's supposed to be gets real tough. And so, but as we're looking at this par 5, it's a par 5, 590, so it's not a short one. And if we look at what the tee shot looks like, I mean, there's water. Water's a problem on the whole thing here. So you're going to see a lot of shots miss to the right, and there's a bunker there to catch it. So this actually might be one where, everyone but DeChambeau who can carry it 340.
Can he really?
That's his average.
That's insane.
It's insane. If you play a little
We're real big on Bryson this week, guys. If you haven't picked up, we're big on Bryson this week.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to have a problem with that bunker where you're going to end up in the rough. Trees doesn't seem to be an issue. But I mean, as far as the second shot goes, if you're able to put it in this part of the fairway, I mean, you have a decent shot into the green. This reminds me of Pebble.
And we just saw 2 weeks ago.
It's not a par 5, but I mean, just the shot shape. You know what I mean? The you're going into the green with the water right there on the left. Water's really in play every shot, so you can have some issues. So that's kind of my thinking on that.
Yep.
And again, it's the same way. More bunkers and more contours.
Yep.
It's just the name of the game. And I think we actually have 18 as well up. So, and again, 18 is
more of that Pebble Beach format.
So 86, more of the, there's going to be water here. And so, you're looking at your tee shot, and maybe some of the bigger guys end up hitting 3-woods here, because that gets real tight. But that being said, there doesn't seem to be too many water issues on your tee shot if you can hit your tee shot in the fairway, which it seems to be real big right here for either driver or 3-wood, whatever you're hitting. It seems makeable, but like I said, they said that it's going into the headwind. So somebody who hits at 310, it's going to hit at 290, and so you're running some water issues and that type of thing. That's kind of the ending hole. That they're predicting it to be a bear. We will see. And again, that's kind of one of the interesting things this week is that we're all making this up.
No one has course history.
People have played this course. As we said, DeChambeau's played this course. Daniel Schauffele, Rahm, Scheffler. They've played this course, but they've never played it in
a PGA
tournament.
Yeah. And not with this caliber of when Bryson beat the PGA field or beat the NCAA field, he was playing college golfers. We knew Bryson was something good even then, right? So
so many people haven't played it at all. So trying to figure out, this is one of those weeks where I feel like as more of a novice, I'm going to not have an advantage because obviously I don't know as much, but maybe there's less built-in institutional knowledge, especially people who've been playing this year over year. Because that's the thing that the thing that I've found in other things is that a lot of times the biggest learning curve is getting up to a certain amount of knowledge because so many people already have that knowledge. Is that kind of how the same way it is in?
I think there is a learning curve, but I think your PGA knowledge will serve you well. I think learning the DFS side of it is a lot easier than learning the ins and outs of which golfer is good on this type of course or which guy's your bombers, that type of stuff. And so I think your PGA knowledge, you can help fill me in. I'll teach you how the gambling works, and hopefully we can ship some money, but more importantly, have some fun along the way.
Perfect. And speaking of gambling, we're going to go over the Vegas odds because while we don't know anything, Vegas always has an inside.
Absolutely. They're looking a lot more than we are.
So we are using Odds Shopper. Is that
Awesemo provides an awesome site called Odds Shopper. For those of you that don't know, Awesemo is probably the industry-leading DFS sports gambling site. Not to promote another site, but Awesemo.
I
get absolutely nothing.
No one literally has been our first show. We are literally just talking about what we use, what Keaton uses, what I use to do my little bit of research. So who knows whether or not what I use is correct. When Keaton talks about it, it probably is the right one to use.
No, it's just I'm just giving you what's out there in the industry. So Awesemo is
there's definitely different options. I know I looked at odds on a couple different sites earlier. So they're definitely they are definitely viable. I know one thing that Keaton was talking about this site specifically was that they normally, for some reason, they're not showing them all right here, but normally they would show the different odds from different sites, so you can get kind of a different feel for it.
And it gives you the best odds. So if you were dead set on betting DJ, it'll tell you what the best site to go bet DJ, where you can get your best odds on DJ is, something like that.
And so, we were just going to walk down some of our favorites, some of the top. And this is going to be a very similar talk to when we talk about the salary side, because for the most part, the salary and odds are overlapped. That is one thing. Do you see a lot of differences between what the odds say and what the...
So that's a really popular way to build lineups, and that's actually a pretty decent way at kind of figuring out where some high ownership is going to be, is any of the pricing inefficiencies based on the Vegas odds. So Notorious, if you play PGA fantasy at all, you probably know who Notorious is. Notorious puts out an article on Monday or Tuesday, and one of the spreadsheets that he puts out in his article is a comparison between FanDuel, DraftKings, and Yahoo pricing, as well as the Vegas odds. And he'll give you kind of point differentials or percentage differentials between the sites, as well as a sortable by the Vegas odds. So you can always sort by descending odds, and then you can see the pricings and yet efficiencies on Notorious's spreadsheet. So highly recommend checking out Notorious. He also posts a lot of stuff for free on Twitter, but he does have a paid site at rotogrinders.com.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we've kind of been talking. When I did all of my research this week, I have used purely the internet and the Google. Keaton does have some access, does have some paid subscriptions. We're not going to be showing those on this YouTube video, but obviously they are factoring in to win,
to our analysis.
So just kind of we'll be as transparent as possible on where we're getting this information. But as you know, when you're searching through, a bunch of different stuff, you may take in a bunch of different information and come out with a choice or the same choice or a different choice for that type of thing. So we're trying our best to not necessarily just pick somebody's roster and say this is what we're going with. We're trying to give you legitimate reasons why.
And kind of our individual thoughts.
And most of mine are made up, so it's great. Now, again, most of them are based off of driver carry distance, as we'll talk later. But we
just want to explain our process.
Exactly. So we went through the odds a little bit earlier, and we just wanted to highlight some of the ones that we kind of liked. I know DJ is the favorite.
DJ is the favorite, just like last week.
Probably should always be the favorite.
Yeah, he was really plus 550 last week. He's plus 600 this week. I think both are expensive. I don't like betting DJ at plus 550 or plus 600. He's not winning this one in 6 times, right? I mean, that's aggressive. This is a hell of a star-studded field, and DJ probably isn't winning this one in 6 times.
I agree, and I think the thing that got me was that the other people that I could see just as likely to win for better odds.
Yeah,
so
I think Brown's just as likely to win.
Yeah, even I'm a huge Rory fan, just in general, and also in this tournament. I think he has all the tools that he puts together week to week. But the thing about Rory is he hits the ball very far. He has the short game. He can put all those things together. There's a reason why he has consistently been the top player, the PGA Player of the Year, multiple years. There's a reason that that's happening. And
he's fun to cheer for. Everyone likes to cheer for Rory. Yeah. Just like Homa said, he spent the last 12 years, or his first 12 years, trying to get Tiger to give him a high five at Riviera. I've spent a few years at Quail Hollow trying to get Rory to give me a high five. So I can understand cheering for Rory here.
Yeah, and so I really like the Rory. I think the ones that I like better are the DeChambeau at 2,000, which we've talked about 1,000 times.
You tell me Bryson only wins this tournament 5% of the time. I'll take that. I think Bryson's got the tools to win this tournament.
Especially when you look at the people that are above him. I think that, he's streaky. Yeah, who knows?
He's a gambler. He loves to. He's boom and bust, but I think that's what you want, right?
And he back to what Paul Azinger said. This course is real gettable for people who can hit it far, and there is no one that hits it further. If you want to look at it, I actually have it pulled up right here, the driver carry distance. If you look at that, 340. Second place is 310. That's Rory.
He's 30 yards further than Rory. I thought Champ would have been up there. Okay,
he's fifth. Yeah. Okay. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the actual salary side and that type of thing. But I really like DeChambeau.
I've got a few more lower down that I like as well.
I really like Brooks at 2650.
Brooks loves the spotlight. If someone's going to win on a big stage.
It's not a major, but
yeah, Brooks is traditionally he holds it all for the majors, but this is as close as you can get. And in terms of big dollars, this is a tournament with big dollars up top.
Yeah.
So which is another reason, as we talk about some of the lower ranked guys, this is a chance for guys that don't have their tour card to really score some points towards getting that tour card. Zalatoris is playing this tournament because his top 50 ranking. He doesn't have a PGA tour card.
So that would be people who are on the international tours now, European tour.
Yeah, or Zalatoris, who's qualifying as the top 50 in the world, but
where does he play normally?
He plays for the PGA Tour on a limited license right now, or he's on a limited tour card right now. So it's an opportunity for him to get a permanent tour card. Or some of the guys lower down on your list, trying to think who else doesn't have a permanent tour card. But there's a handful of guys, especially some of the overseas guys that don't have permanent tour cards. So this is an opportunity for them to score both a huge dollar payday, but as well as an opportunity to move over to, nothing against the European Tour, but it is not, the dollars aren't the same, right?
Payday, week to week, yeah. And one thing, we talked a little bit more, and I know Keaton has a couple of further down. I mentioned when we were talking about this, Patrick Reed, everyone's least favorite person who wears red on Sunday. I think that he could actually play pretty well. He doesn't hit the ball as far, but he has had success at the Masters. He knows what it's like to navigate really hard greens to deal with, that type of thing. You could definitely see him hanging around and people being upset about it.
My favorite pick of the week, I think, is Jason Day down at plus 5,000.
There we go. Right.
Jason Day took last week off. We didn't see him play. I think I think he can come out and play this tournament at a high level. I think he has a lot of the skills that we're looking for. He's got decent off the green or decent off the tee, solid approach. I like him at plus 5,000.
Former number one player of the year or in the world.
Yeah.
Like he's got
the tools to do it. The other one I like down there is Joaquin Niemann at 4,500 or Neiman 4,500. We saw him play well the first two rounds last week. We didn't see him play as well on Saturday and Sunday. Weather was a factor on Saturday. Sunday started a little bit with the weather. Maybe he was just off his game a little bit. So I'll give him a pass on the Saturday and Sunday form. But he came out hot on Friday. Came out hot on Thursday. Another guy that's pretty long off the tee. And has been in pretty good form of late with some solid finishes. Minus, I'll give him a pass, like I said, on Saturday and Sunday last week.
That's great. And we are focusing on DFS. We're not focusing on just pure bet to win. We're not going to the casino and
we live in North Carolina. We don't have legal bail. Yeah, we can only play DFS legally.
Possibly only because we don't have a casino right by. But that was kind of our take on who the winner is, because that's one thing that probably has always stopped me from playing DFS is that you end up pulling for who's going to finish sixth instead of seventh, and it takes a little bit away from who's winning. Now that me as a huge Tiger fan,
speaking of, thoughts and prayers for the Tiger family today.
Exactly, and now that he has been out and then. Unfortunately, it looks to be out for an extended period of time. I've not been as excited about, the weeds of golf. Digging in and watching all four rounds hasn't been in my repertoire. I keep up, like I said, I pay attention to, the top, and even not the top, right? Like, I pay attention to who's winning and that type of thing. But I definitely haven't been as dug in as you have to be really good at DFS. And I think that's the thing that Keaton has showed me just from coming over and pulling for whoever random person he has playing really well, is that, it's that person on Sunday who, is top 10, that, isn't in this, isn't, one of the top 10 people in the odds to win. So, the average person wouldn't know him. So that's what I think we're trying to do, is trying to kind of pick those people out and come at it from a reasonable perspective and not just, this is my guess for the week.
And that's it. We don't necessarily want to give you our picks for the week. We will give you our picks for the week. Don't get you wrong. We're going to build a lineup at the end.
Oh, I have them.
But this is more just kind of talking through the process, talking to the things that we're looking at for the courses, the things we're looking at for the golfers for the week. Any inefficiencies we're seeing either in the Vegas odds market compared to the DFS market, and then really just trying to have some fun with this. This is more than anything, I think the Sunday sweats have been a blast for me coming from the NFL, where we really only get 1 o'clock to 8 o'clock when the 4 o'clock games end, or 7:30. That's our only sweat. Having a sweat that lasts the full weekend has been a blast, just from a pure entertainment value for DFS.
Yeah. And so I'm excited to hopefully start making money in that. So we were going to walk through kind of the top Salary people. Huh.
Yeah, so it's interesting. This week we only have 2 golfers above $11,000. I think these are probably both 2 pretty predictable. We have DJ and Rom up there. It's easy to see starting a lineup with either one of those guys. But in a field like this where you have so many talented golfers, I can also see a pretty viable strategy of fading both those top 2 salary guys and building less of a stars and scrubs lineup. Now, traditionally in a no-cut event, you would build more of a stars and scrubs lineup where you get the more expensive golfers, and since you will have all 4 rounds no matter what from your lower-end golfers, there's less of a risk in throwing in some 6K guys along with your stars.
Yeah.
But I think there's value, since that is probably the default build for a lot of people. I think there's value in building a more balanced lineup with maybe starting with maybe some of the 10K or even a few of our 9K guys that we're going to talk about, and starting your lineup there to have a more balanced 9 and 8K approach rather than 10s and 6s. And so that's something to consider this week. I think there's value in being a little bit different there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that makes total sense. And I think if you go back and forth between like the odds favorites and versus like where we are, I mean, it's very similar, right? Like it's Rom.
DraftKings is really efficient. DraftKings.
There's gonna be very similar layout that you come through. But like if you look, like exactly what Keaton was saying, if you look at the $9,000 people, I mean, there's people there who have a good shot of winning. Not even. I mean,
Finau is a second place machine.
Yeah.
Finau has been 3 straight second places. He easily could have won last week.
He has to at some point win.
If Homa couldn't pull out that amazing shot from behind the tree on the playoff, I mean, Finau should have won that playoff.
Yeah, and just as we walk down like through these, like I mean, we love DeChambeau. I love Brooks.
Brooks loves the spotlight.
We've not talked about Hovland at all, but he's just been killing it this year. I mean,
consistency.
Ever since he came, really, even when he was playing as an amateur, he's been great. Patrick Reed, I'm not gonna have him in one of my lineups at 9,200. I just feel like there's more value below him personally, but you're also gonna see me make a lineup, and that could be something and a half.
I like Sanjay this week at 8,800.
Yeah. And then one person I talked about a little bit was Adam Scott, and he might be a little bit overvalued for how he's been playing, but he's a guy who hits it really far. He's won at Augusta. You know, he has those tools if he can put it together. Maybe hasn't necessarily had recently, but
and then I like the golfer right below him. I talked about him a little bit earlier, Joaquin Nyman, and Will Zalatoris right below him. I think both those two. Zalatoris is. I mean, last week he was in a lot of lineups that ended up placing pretty highly because he was pretty low owned. He was pretty low priced, and he ended up having a solid week. I think he's always in contention. You can see that 25 to 26 cuts made, not obviously relevant this week, but just nice to go to show you the form he's in.
And I think we're going to talk about Zalatoris a lot because he is on my. I don't know if you'd even call it sleeper picks, but as far as the more cost of under, I did it as anyone under 83.
All right. I don't know. Arbitrary line, but I like it.
Well,
it's average.
Yeah. I don't know. What would your value price be?
I usually consider golfers in like the 6 to low 7s range.
Which is fair.
And I think this week we actually have a fair number down there. But I think we have a fair number of golfers down there. So real quick, we have Jason Day at the 7,800. We talked about him earlier. I think he could easily put it together for solid rounds. Yeah, I mean, his recent form hasn't been there, but he's a golfer that has all the tools to get it done.
Justin Rose, a guy that can hit it very far.
Yeah, again, not someone that hasn't been playing well of late, terribly well,
but yeah, as we walk through, Bubba, kind of one of those guys that I think I mentioned him earlier about the the getting birdies.
In a no-cut event, Bubba can do it.
In a no-cut event, I mean, he may finish last, but he's probably going to have 15 birdies. And
he may pay off that $7,300. Going back up, one guy I wanted to touch on was Matt Wolff. There's been some talk this week that him and Bryson play similarly well on similar courses. And so another guy that's long off the tee. And so to the extent we're liking Bryson this week, I think we can like Wolff this week again. I'll probably have a fair number of lineups that have both Bryson and Wolff.
And I think we were discussing that earlier. Wolff is 7th in carry distance, and last year he was 3rd. So
Bryson's also got the missed cut narrative. We didn't talk about that earlier, but the prior 3 weeks before Homa won last week, we had a missed cut winner. So we went Berger won after missing the cut, Brooks won after missing the cut, and Reed won after missing the cut in the last 3 weeks. So guys are coming off missed cuts. We've got JT.
Put all your money on Rory.
We got Rory, and we have Bryson. 3 big names coming off missed cuts. So to the extent you want to keep the missed cut win narrative rolling, I don't love JT this week. I do like Bryson, and I always like Rory. So
yeah, that's completely fair. I know we mentioned. Did I mention Krokop yet?
You did in the pre-show. I'm not sure if you did in the during.
Yeah, we definitely talked about him earlier. He's a guy. 11th in driving carry distance. I also have him as 28th in the field in the overall distance to the pin, which again I said was a very important statistic that has yet to be proven.
And we also saw him look good last week. He looked good through. He didn't look as great on Sunday, but he looked good through Saturday last week. And he's a guy that when he gets hot tends to stay hot. So I can see him staying hot this week.
And he's substantially lower than the 8,300, which I have been putting all my stake into.
One guy I guess we shouldn't pass over, Ryan Palmer, is going to be really popular this week. I'm not totally on Palmer, but a lot of people have him down there as an inefficient price golfer.
Interesting fact about Ryan Palmer.
Oh, yeah?
He may or may not have been, this actually may not be true because I can't remember the statistic. Pretty sure he was number 1 on closest distance all.
All right, I like Ryan Palmer. Ryan Palmer is going to be wildly popular this week. I've seen him touted by a lot of people this week.
He's been wildly popular since he was in college.
Yep. So
which was 100.
I expect his ownership to be pretty high, but also seems to be a pretty solid value play. Going down to these value plays though, so Kevin Na, he's a golfer that really performs well when he doesn't withdraw on Thursday morning for no apparent reason. So he's a golfer that's been really frustrating. I think it was. Which tournament was it? Was it the Waste Management tournament earlier this year where he withdrew Thursday for no reason, no explanation, practiced on Wednesday, didn't play Thursday? Super frustrating for those of us that rostered him. I'm not still upset about it. But he's a golfer that when he does play and when he doesn't withdraw for no apparent reason, he can play well and he can put up a top 5 pretty easily in this tournament. Going below him, Answer. Got to give a thank you to Answer for tweeting out Wednesday last week that he was still stuck in Texas in that snowstorm. Was able to quickly change some lineups because I had a fair amount of Answer going into Thursday morning. But when he tweeted out that he wasn't able to even make it to Florida to play the practice rounds, or make it to California to play those practice rounds, I was able to quickly get off him. Lanto Griffin's another guy that has been touted this week.
He did not make any of my list, so
there's what it's for. So coming one down, we have Ramis Hojgaard coming overseas. He's had some really nice form. Ricky's going to pull up his recent form. He's been playing in the Euro Tour recently. You can see he's got a T6, T9, T25.
This Saudi International, this was the one that all the PGA guys played. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So Dustin won that tournament.
And he put on T6. So he showed that he can. He's not just somebody that's going to be coming in and be a little bit too starry-eyed, doesn't know what's going to be going on.
Yeah, he can certainly compete with the best. So he's one I like this week. Got $6,700. That's fine. That was a year ago.
Just 77.
Yeah. I mean, we'll give him a break on the U.S. Open, but his recent form. You look there. Even going back to October of last year, that T37 in the WGC Championship, not great, but T25, T9, T6.
It looks like he's only played 3. He's only played 3 tournaments this year, but
and then he's got the last 2 weeks off to
top 25 and all this. So he's definitely playing well, and
his price is cheap. He's cheap.
6,700. That's colossally below my you're a low price person.
So going on down here, other guys that we like. I know you're on Champ, right?
Oh, I am. I've got a star beside Champ's name. He is 4th in driver carry. He is pretty cheap. He's 37th in distance to the pin, which isn't the best, but I favor driver distance a lot, and I like him a lot. And he's only 6,500. I think he's 7,400 on FanDuel.
On FanDuel.
But he's cheap across the board. So you're definitely gonna get value there. He's even got a little piece of paper beside him, which I don't know what that means. But
so Ricky,
he's not injured though.
DraftKings will give you the worst information about golfers. Yeah. DraftKings is pretty good about updates on NFL players, even with NBA players. But I got it, yeah. So they are absolutely horrible on. The last place I'd be looking for information is from DraftKings on.
So I should probably temper my expectations for him because he doesn't even play golf anymore.
Okay, is that what happened? He hurt his back.
I know. At least he's not non-injury related. He just withdrew. He just didn't play playing.
All right, well, at least he's not McCumber.
He wanted to focus on. Is McCumber hurt?
No, well, McCumber tore his fingernail off. You didn't see the story last week?
No, that's terrible.
Oh, God. So, for everyone that wants to hear the story, McCumber might be my favorite golfer. McCumber Tuesday morning was going down to play his practice round, and he wanted to air out his hotel room, because who doesn't want to air out their hotel room when they're visiting California? And he was opening his window, and he caught his fingernail in the screen. He said he wanted to cool down his room, but we all know he was airing out his room, let's be clear. So he wanted to cool down his room and caught his fingernail in the sliding door and had to have it surgically removed by the PGA doctor. They iced him up, put something in his glove, and he went out there and he actually shot pretty dang well.
Did he play this week?
He played this was last week. He did it on Tuesday before, and he played pretty well. I think he finished T18, something like that.
McCumber? Going down to other people. I know you had mentioned Herbert.
Herbert, we're not sure how to say his name, but he's been playing overseas. So. It's probably Herbert. He's Australian.
I would pronounce it Herbert, but that's something I don't know.
But another golfer, we talked about the guys that have been playing overseas that may not be as popular with the folks that may only be watching PGA events. And so Herbert, we're going to church him up a little bit. He's someone that's probably going to go, 1 or 2% owned, almost nothing owned, and has a chance.
I will also jump right underneath there. Ben Ruin,
yeah. South African.
South African apparently. He is 19th in driving carry, but he is 7th in distance to the pin.
His recent form has been hot garbage, so that anyone is aware.
Yeah. So Keaton has told me that I should discount him and don't expect him to win. But that being said, he is A, cheap. B, if you are on the betting side, he is a plus 15,000 underdog.
He's not winning this tournament, but I can see him finishing top 20. Yeah. So I don't like the betting outright win, but I do think someone like Van Rooyen, who's long off the tee, could have some success and see a top 20 here, which would easily pay off his 6,200.
And this is the very bottom. So these are people if you decided to just bust out the top.
If you want those stars,
and you end up with $0 for your sixth person. Because I really
don't like anyone else down below. I really don't even honestly know anyone else.
I know a lot of these guys are some of from the overseas tours that are coming in, and outside of who did we talk about earlier? That was coming in from the European tour.
Patton.
That played in the Saudi Invitational.
Hogarth.
Yeah, outside of Hogarth. There's a couple that have proven that they can play with the PGA, in the PGA spotlight and that type of thing. But these guys down here, sure they could go out well. And again, kind of what we were talking about earlier, they with no cut,
they're going to get you 4 rounds of scoring. Yeah,
they're going to give you 4 rounds, and so honestly, one of these X amount of people that's on this page right now is probably going to be the person who wins on Sunday.
He could easily end up as someone in the optimal lineup. I'm not going to say it could be someone that wins, but he could easily end up in the optimal lineup due to their cheap salary. I can see someone down here paying off their optimal salary.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, winning the DFS.
Yeah, winning your DFS.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because
you get an overperformance from a guy like Van Rooyen at 1 or 2%, and he finishes T5, and you're heavy on him. That's a game-changing performance right there.
And so you talked a little bit about the percentage owned and that type of thing. Where do you normally go? Do you use any public information? Or
there's no public information for projected ownership. Projected ownership's all usually on a paid site. At least I haven't come across. If anyone knows, please feel free to drop in the comments anywhere that projects ownership for free. One of the ways
we love free.
We love free. Yeah. One of the ways you can kind of get a feel for where ownership is going to fall. This is what Ricky talked about, is comparing the Vegas odds to the salary tiers and any inefficiencies. That's a way a lot of people build lineups. And so to the
That's
extent
what I
there
would
are
do.
inefficiencies, I can see that being a really popular way. The other way people look at it is I imagine recent form plays a ton into people's calculus. So
Yeah.
So
who were we talking about earlier? That
Max Homa won last week, but
Zolstrus maybe that had played really well.
Zalatoris has been on a tear. He's been really consistent. He's cheap.
Yeah.
I can see him being extremely owned. But then like the prototypical person is DJ, right? DJ just doesn't finish in outside the top 10. I mean, maybe he's finished I think he finished 11th 3 weeks ago, maybe. But I mean, DJ he finishes in the top 20, right? I mean, betting, I think he's got to be a negative to bet him to finish in the top 20.
How much do you see that it ends up being the big name guys, right? Like the
big name guys coming in high ownership, and then every week it seems there are going to be a handful of guys, lower priced guys, but that either the field is on, the industry's on, and then ownership will consolidate. But PGA more than NFL is better about avoiding hive mind. I think NFL ownership is probably the number one factor in terms of in being a successful NFL DFS player is understanding ownership and differentiating ownership. PGA events like this are a little bit different because there's only 72 golfers, so ownership is higher. In a normal where we have 120 golfers and the top 60 or whatever, 70 make the cut, ownership isn't as big of a factor. I think you need to be cognizant of avoiding some of the super high owned guys like DJ, I think was 30% last week or 28%. Avoiding some of those, not necessarily avoiding, but building smart lineups. So if I'm going to start with the guy that I know is super high owned, I need to then mix in some guys that are lower owned. Whereas kind of we talked about building that stars and scrubs lineup, the same idea is true with ownership. I can have a bunch of medium projection ownership guys as long as I don't have someone that's super high owned, and that balances out. So total ownership is probably more important than any individual player's ownership.
Yeah.
And being cognizant of building a lineup that has a chance of winning and to the extent possible avoiding being duplicated, which isn't as big of a factor in PGA.
Yeah. So I think what's going to happen right now is that I am going to very poorly put together a lineup. This is going to be my first lineup as we discussed here. And so I'm going to put it together. Keaton's going to actually go into the other room so that he doesn't critique me. He will critique me on the back end, not the front end. I'm going to move our camera over to this side so you all can see me and move a little bit over. But what we're going to do is I'm going to build my lineup. I'm going to talk it through. I'm going to say why I like the people. I'm probably going to add people, then take them back off. But this is like I said, this is the first time that I've ever put together a lineup. So it may be garbage. We'll go from there. So like I said, I'm going to add people and then maybe subtract them on the back end. I'm not going to just put together a random lineup. This is very much on the fly thing. So I'm going to put Rory. I'm going to put DeChambeau in. Those are obviously my big hitters. I'm also going to put Kapkan. I'm probably going to cut one of those three, but those are my three that I really like at the top. Kind of like what we talked about. I really like Johnson. I think like if you were to say gun to your head who you think wins, I do think Johnson probably wins. But I don't know. It's hard. He's just a lot more expensive than a lot of guys that are going to play really well and have just a very similar shot of winning. And so I really like Zalatoris. I know Keaton had talked up Wolf, so I'm actually going to put Wolf in for a moment. We'll see if he stays. So at this point, I literally can't put anyone else in my lineup because the lowest person's at $6,000. So this is where I'm going to pick who of those top three I'm going to keep. I'm actually going to cut Brooks. I'm going to stand on a tower and say that I think Rory's going to win. I think he is my pick of the week for who is going to be the champion. And so going from there, I'm going to put Champ in, as I talked about, fourth in driving carry. And if we jump over to driver carry for a minute, I mean, if we look at it, it's most of the guys that you would think about. Cam Smith's up there. He's another guy that I might put up there. Wolf is there. It's a lot of people who may not necessarily normally be up at the top. Maybe the guy that puts you over this week. I've got $7,600 left, so I'm gonna go up to my 7,600. And again, maybe this isn't how I'm supposed to do it. I don't know. Every time I've ever put together, I've put together lineups for other non-golf sports, and this is how I normally do it, and it's not necessarily been successful. But again, I've only been one of those people that have, sat down and picked 6 people that I liked, and gone from there. One thing that I am second guessing myself on was proclaiming that Rory was going to win, because I could move down to Brooks and get a lot more people options. But I'm going to stick with what I said. And so as we work down here, I talked about Krokrak. Is that Krokrak? About how I really liked him. He was one of my high ranked players. But as I said, my number one. So my formula that I did to figure out who I wanted, I multiplied the ranking and driver carry. I multiplied that by 5 because I think it was more important. I took the distance to the pin ranking, 1 to 72. I multiplied that by 2. Didn't think it's that much. Then I multiplied it by the price, and from there I got my top people. And my top person in all of this is probably somebody that's more expensive than I was supposed to be, as I was talking about, but I can't find him. But it would be. I'm gonna type his name in so that you can. He is $8,700, so I can't. But my top person was Cam Smith, and so he's probably somebody that you should probably put on your team. And if I had the money, I would. But that being said, since I can't, I'm gonna go like we talked about. I really like Bubble for this week purely because of the chaos. But I'm going to go with your boy that I can't pronounce, Krokrak. And that is going to be officially my life. I got $500 left. I'm going to let Keaton say mean things about it, and then I will enter it on Midget.
So, real quick, don't feel locked into entering it in this contest. When we open it up, this is your $15 ticket. So this is the big DraftKings $250K up top tournament. This is their big flagship.
I got it for free.
Deposit bonus. So this will definitely be the one Ricky ships. I like this lineup. So Bryson and Wolf are 2 people I think I will have in lineups. They've historically done well on similar courses. I like that quite a bit. Kokrak, when he gets hot, he stays hot, so I like him. Like you said, Champ spinning your model. I like Champ. And I think Rory is another one that fits that miscut win.
Rory's not picked to win this week.
I think Rory or Bryson
he's
easily.
$1,400. I would put $100 on him.
I think Zalatoris is another one that honestly could easily win this tournament. He's playing great.
$5,500 if you were on the betting side.
I like this lineup. I like leaving $500 on the table. So I heard you talking a little bit about salary. A lot of players building lineups from hand like this have the compulsion that they need to use all their salary. And that is something I would encourage people to disregard. I think the idea that, yes, obviously there is efficiencies in the pricing, and so you don't want to leave a massive amount of salary. If you leave $3,500 or $4,000 on the table, that's a strategy that we typically reserve for like NFL Showdown where there's going to be 100,000 lineups and you need to be different, right? Here, that's not the case, but I do think this gives you a chance to be different, and I think it avoids, or you don't have the need to spend all of your salary. So I think leaving $500 is fine. I like this lineup. I think you have 2 to 3 guys that can legitimately win. I think everyone else has a real shot at a top 5, maybe a top 10. I think this is a lineup that could easily win this tournament.
If you were going to pick one person to replace with a similar class person, what would you pick?
So I heard you talking about Cam Smith. I do like Cam Smith this week. He played well last week. He's played well at the Masters.
I made up.
So number one in your made up thing, I may have prioritized getting him into this lineup. I know at $8,700 he's tough to get into this lineup because you really have to redo almost everything you're doing.
I could have dropped Rory, but I literally on the camera 5 seconds before proclaimed he was the winner.
Yeah, so it's hard to drop Rory. So you really can't drop Rory. We've been all over Bryson. Champ, I think, provides tons of value. Zalatoris, same thing. So then you're really talking about making a 2-for-2 swap, paying up to get Cameron Smith,
he's like
and
84,
then
I
think he said he's 84, 87. So
84.
Okay, so just for giggles, let's try it out. Let's see what it would look like if we took Kokrak and Wolf out, and we wanted to put in Smith, and who does that give us? Hogard, maybe? Do we have enough for Hogard at that price?
No,
you had Kokrak and...
See, this is what happens. I was supposed to submit the final one.
Real quick, we'll write it down. We'll go plug in Kokrak just so we can figure out who you had. You had Kokrak and... folks, this is why you pay attention.
Somebody who was
7,600. Only one, our boy Wolf. Okay. So you have Wolf and Kokrak. Which I do like Wolf this week, although I know a lot of touts were pretty down on Wolf last week and then felt validated when he had a crap week.
I feel like my biggest fear in this is that a lot of people are going to be owning DeChambeau.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think DeChambeau is probably going to be the most owned person this week.
I think DJ will be the most owned.
You think so? Even with how expensive it is.
Yeah, DJ. I think the field just thinks DJ is heads and tails above everybody else, which I honestly may be true. So we got
87.
And so that leaves 65, and I wonder if we can get someone like Hogard. Is Hogard a little bit more? No, so we can't afford Hogard. We can go down to your boy Van Rooyen. So that's an interesting 2v2. Smith and Rooyen versus Kutcher, and that honestly be maybe a situation where if this was the $3, I'd probably enter both, right?
Yeah. My
core would be McIlroy, DeChambeau, Champ, and Zalatoris.
Yeah.
And then I might mix and match those last two if I'm not sold on anybody.
Yeah.
Or if I'm more sold on DeChambeau and Wolf combo, maybe I stick Wolf and I mix out Zalatoris and Van Rooyen to see if
I think if I was going to do a different one, I think I would drop Rory, pick up Brooks.
Okay.
And then you could drop maybe not even Wolf, but you'd have because the difference between Rory and Brooks is $900.
It's not unsustainable.
I would have had $1,400 left or $1,400 differential.
Yeah, so, I mean you can get up there at that point. Yeah. So I mean that is something you may have been able to afford your Cameron Smith without changing. So I like that lineup. I like the lineup you built originally. And so I don't know if you're going to throw this in the $15. Evidently, we're doing it. And so don't dupe us, bros. Don't put this lineup in. This is Ricky's shipping first place, $250K. And when we ship first, like and subscribe.
Yeah, but that is our week. I don't know if you had any other things to add before we finish. I think we walked through everything I wanted to walk through, which was what do I do, how do I do it, and let me do it very poorly on TV.
No, I think that's awesome. We've got some good lines. We talked about some good stuff. I think we'll keep getting better as we go, guys. So to the extent anyone other than our mothers are watching, have some patience with us. Shoot us a note. Let us know what you want to see us do, what you want to see us improve on. Pin poll DFS at gmail.com if you want to shoot us an email.
Yep.
I'm at John Galt JD on Twitter.
I'm at Parker TR Parker 10 on Twitter.
And so feel free to shoot us. We'll be posting some screenshots of how our lineups go this week. And our goal is to get back on Saturday night to talk about Showdown for Sunday. I know to the extent any of you guys are subscribers to any of the paid services, I think that's an area that the paid services really don't focus on, is that Sunday Showdown. So we're going to make a show Saturday, or our goal is to make shows Saturdays, make a spreadsheet, hopefully add a little better projections than what's currently available, and provide them for free so that we can all have some nice Sunday sweats going forward.
Fingers crossed. Mostly just, not lose all the money. It's not even make money. It's just not lose all the money.
So I guess real quick, one thing we didn't focus on is kind of what contest we're going to be playing. Real quick, I think...
What kind of contest will I be playing?
Yeah, we're going to be playing the $3 20 max 100K birdie on DraftKings. that's at least the show, like the contests we're going to highlight on our show. We'll
That's
talk
the
about
other
our
one I made
results.
right now, right?
That's the other one you registered one entry in.
I got 2 free entries from joining.
But he is going to pump in the full 20 max.
Yeah.
He's going to 20 enter, and then we'll review. We'll go through. We'll talk about our percentages, who we owned, who we liked, how our week went, and then we'll preview the next week. So thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, I think that's it. Prayers out to Tiger.
Prayers to Tiger.
Please get better. I want you back on the course, or just in general.
Or at least in the announcer box.
Yeah, anywhere Tiger Woods is a pro. Thank you, everyone. Bye. We're Pen and Pole. DFS.